You ever have one of those mornings that starts out like any other, but by noon, you realize your entire life's about to change? That was me, 6 a.m., standing outside my barn with a mug of black coffee, staring at a $200,000 Bentley parked smack across both my barn doors like some twisted art installation. And standing next to it, arms folded, was Karen Sullivan, my neighbor, HOA president, and the only person in the county who could make a yoga outfit look like body armor. There she was, smug as ever, watching me like she'd just won the lottery. And for a second, I thought maybe she had. Because this wasn't some accidental parking mishap. This was war. This was years of bottled-up grief and spite aimed right at me. "Morning, Tom," Karen called out, all sweetness and poison. "Beautiful day for deadlines, isn't it?" You know that feeling when the hairs on your arms stand up, like a thunderstorm's about to break? That's what I felt, because I knew she wasn't just talking about the weather, and this definitely wasn't a coincidence. Now, I've been farming 30 years, seen droughts, floods, and more government paperwork than any sane man should have to survive. But this, having my barn blocked on harvest day, that was new. I looked for any gap, any inch to get my tractor out, but she'd parked with surgical precision, bumper lined right along my property line. She wanted me trapped, desperate, and there she was, clutching a business card in trembling hands, like she was daring me to make the first move. Let me back up a sec. Karen wasn't always like this. Used to be she'd just hand out HOA warnings like Halloween candy. Grass too long. Mailbox needs paint. You know the drill. But 2 years back, her son Danny died in a farming accident. Since then, she'd turned her grief into a crusade against anything on 4 wheels, especially if it had my name on the paperwork. While I stood there, trying to keep my cool, old Pete shuffled by on his morning coffee run. "Harvest season, Tom," he said. "Don't forget your protocols." His words made Karen's head snap around like she was waiting for a confession. I could feel her eyes drilling holes into me. Meanwhile, Rebecca, the neighborhood's unofficial reporter, was out walking her dog, filming on her phone for her blog, because nothing around here happens without winding up on the internet. She shot me a look that said, "You're on camera, so mind your manners." If only life came with a script. My phone buzzed, delivery confirmation, payment due by noon. If I missed this contract, I wasn't just out $8,000. I was looking at foreclosure. 30 years, gone because of one car and one woman's vendetta. And just as I started wondering how much worse this could get, Karen stepped closer, clutching that card like it was a grenade. "Tom, these machines, they're accidents waiting to happen," she hissed. "You of all people should know that." And then she flashed her phone at me. Live security feed, multiple angles, of my barn, my house, even my driveway. She'd been watching, tracking every routine. I swear, I could feel the walls closing in. "You've been watching me?" I asked. "It's my job to know what happens in this community," she snapped back, her voice shaking but her eyes steady. She'd planned this like a military operation. Even the timing of my equipment checks, the loading schedule, she had it all. And suddenly, I realized she wasn't just blocking a barn. She was blocking my future. Then, for a split second, Karen's mask slipped. Instead of satisfaction, I saw something close to panic. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. "What happens if you can't make your deliveries, Tom?" she asked, almost whispering. She looked scared of the answer, like she'd finally realized just how far she'd pushed things. Before I could reply, my delivery driver pulled in, clipboard in hand, oblivious to the drama. "Cutting it close, Tom. Deadline's 1:45. Karen's face went white. The card slipped from her hand. Marcus Williams, agricultural engineer, with a phone number she'd called God knows how many times. At that exact moment, Deputy Miller rolled up in his patrol car. He looked like a man who'd rather be anywhere else, and I didn't blame him. Out stepped a woman in a business suit with a thick manila folder, county planning, by the looks of it. Karen went into full HOA mode, gesturing at my barn like she was in court. "Officer, this is about public safety," she started, voice climbing the scales. But I cut her off. "Jake, I need that barn open. I've got an hour before I lose the farm." Miller glanced at the Bentley, at Karen, then at me. "Tom, I need to see your insurance and permits." My gut dropped. I knew what he'd find. My insurance had lapsed months ago. Cash flow problems, the usual farm story. Karen's eyes sparkled with something like victory as Miller flipped through my papers. She'd planned this down to the day. The woman from planning opened her folder. Mr. Harris, we've received complaints about unpermitted agricultural operations. She slid out aerial photos, dated complaints, even a copy of a foreclosure notice I'd been hiding like a death sentence. This was no random inspection. Someone, Karen, had been building a case, piece by piece. My phone buzzed again. Tom, it's 10 a.m. Need delivery confirmation. Each buzz made Karen flinch. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Miller shook his head. Tom, I can't let you operate uninsured equipment, not with this much on the record. And that's when everything clicked. Karen had orchestrated the perfect trap. One push, and everything I'd worked for would collapse. But she hadn't counted on Rebecca, who stepped forward, phone raised. Actually, I think everyone should hear what I recorded this morning. Karen's face went pale. Rebecca, don't, but Rebecca hit play. Karen's voice, cold and calculated, spilled out. I've been planning this for months. Waited for his insurance to expire, timed it perfectly. He'll lose everything on Danny's death anniversary. Perfect revenge. The silence that followed was electric. Miller stepped back, radioed for his supervisor. Premeditated interference. Fraudulent complaints. Immediate removal order. The authority came through the static, and just like that, the trap snapped shut, but not on me. Karen raged, threatened, even climbed onto her Bentley's hood, daring me to prove I'm a violent farmer. She was desperate for footage, desperate to become the martyr. I climbed into my John Deere, fired up the engine, and lowered the hydraulic bucket. Slow, deliberate. Karen rolled off at the last possible second, but her car wasn't so lucky. $200,000 of German engineering turned to scrap metal as the bucket shifted the Bentley out of the way. Miller was documenting everything. Rebecca was recording. The planning officer was already calling her boss. Karen, for the first time, looked completely lost. Loading the hay took under an hour. By 1:37 p.m., the delivery was made, the payment received, and my farm was saved by a hair. I came home to find Karen sitting by the crushed remains of her car, reading over her son's old blueprints that Marcus had handed her. Her rage had fizzled, replaced by something like realization. The weapon she'd used to try to destroy me had become the start of her own reckoning. We sat in silence while Marcus laid out Danny's safety system designs, not just for new tractors, but retrofit kits for old ones. The whole time, Karen traced her son's neat handwriting, reading about the safety system he'd built, the same one that could have prevented his own death, the one that, in the end, had saved Pete's life. The irony hit us both hard. While Karen spent 2 years using grief as a weapon, her son's true legacy was a blueprint for saving lives. That year, with Marcus's help, Karen founded the Danny Sullivan Safety Foundation. She sold the Bentley scrap for seed money, traded in luxury for a modest Honda, and poured everything into retrofitting old equipment and teaching safety. Rebecca's blog became a national resource, and within 2 years, Danny systems were on hundreds of farms. Insurance companies started offering discounts for farms using Sullivan safety kits, and Karen became a speaker, sharing her story, teaching safety, turning tragedy into progress. And yet, sitting on my porch one evening, Karen beside me, we both admitted we had regrets. Not for fighting, not for losing so much, but for not talking sooner, for letting pain turn to hate. The lesson? Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to build something new. Sometimes justice comes wrapped in twisted metal and hard truths, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you get the chance to turn grief into something that helps others. So here's my question for you, and I really mean it. What do you think? Was Karen justified, or did she go too far? Can revenge ever bring real justice, or does it just pass the pain along? Drop your story below, and let's talk about what we owe each other, as neighbors, as families, as human beings just trying to survive another Monday.